All right, guys. Uh, this is the assembly video for the Webley Army, which I'm super freaking stoked about because this one has taken me a good deal of time to get all the features and the functions of it. Um, so what we're going to do is jump right into this. Um, I'm super stoked about this because this is going to be really the first double action, and the fact that I was able to even sort out all of the features and the functions, just I love this thing. So let's go ahead and get started here. Now this one actually is not that hard of a build. There are some small little pieces, and some of y'all will cuss me, but it is what it is. That's another reason why this is one of the advanced kits, because we have some parts. So let's go ahead and get these out here. Here's the frame. I am still looking into possibly making a resin version of this. One of the issues is how thin this frame is right here in the center. I'm doing some testing off and on right now. You guys are wearing me out on my new resin kit, so having downtime on some of my resin printers to actually do some test printing is not the easiest thing, but we've got our orange tip here. We have got our cylinder lock that goes under the barrel right here that moves and it locks our cylinder in. All that functions as it should. This is our cylinder rod itself, which is going to be where we're going to put our spring and our indexer on. And that's where our big spring goes. That's right here. We'll just set all this off to the side real quick. This is our hammer part. This is the back of the hammer, you know, the actual thumb grip thing. This is the two pieces of the trigger. Now this is two pieces because I needed this part of the trigger to print a specific way, but if I printed the entire trigger piece that way, it would have made the trigger like not come out as far as like the curves and the detail of it if this was all printed as one piece. So this is two separate pieces. It also in where you have like your layer lines printed in this trigger piece, the layer lines go, of course, this way, and the layer lines in this go this way. So once we glue and join this together as one piece, they reinforce each other, so it makes a really super strong trigger, but we'll get to that. These are going to be our two internal spring arms that operate the hammer and the trigger and all of that. This is our indexer piece. This little dude here, this is going to be our bolt arm that pops up, and that's what catches in the cylinder and stops it from rotating. This is our barrel release lever that goes on here, and it's what it sounds like. It's for the barrel to be released to cock it over. We have three little pieces that are going to be for the lanyard D-ring at the bottom of the grip right here. We have these two pieces here, which is our side release that we can move, that unlocks the cylinder lock that allows us to take the cylinder out once you have the barrel cocked open. These are going to be the two side cylinder covers. One goes on this side and one will go on this side. The one with the square opening, there's only one of them has a square opening on it, and that's very important that it will go on the right side. And when I say right or left, I'm always talking about holding this. So it'll go on the right side that with the square up top. But we'll get to all that. This will be the spring that once this cylinder guard is on, this spring, this is like the barrel release spring. It's got a notch in it. And that spring will just go set up in this notch on here. Let's see if I can pick this up and show you. So it just sets on there like that once this cylinder guard's on there. And then we can put our barrel release on there, and that's the little spring that operates our barrel release. This little weird looking dude, this is going to be part of the cam for the barrel. And I'll kind of go over that with y'all. Well, I will go over the whole thing with you guys. This is the hand. This is the piece that moves up and actually operates and turns the indexer. This is going to be our hammer. This is what allow the function of the double action. So you have the single action of cocking, pull the trigger, cock, pull the trigger, and then you have the double action, which you pull the trigger. This is what grabs the hammer, cocks it back real quick, and allows it, for the double action as it sounds. And this is our front sight that goes on the barrel. And we'll get into the pieces of the hardware. Now this is, to me, is the cool part. This I had that after I designed it. This is laser cut out of stainless steel. A company that I have to send these to, or I sent the design to, they laser cut these for me. And this little square block is also stainless steel. And this functions with this cam. And this little square piece actually, ultimately, when we get to it, gets glued into the body down here into this little groove to where it sits flush. And I did that because I wanted repeated wear. If I had just made that printed to where this notch catches from the cam catches on that, this notch would eventually wear the plastic out, and I didn't want that. So I did this stainless steel to where that's where the cam is catching every time, and then ultimately sliding up and passing over. So all the wear between these two parts happened right here at one of the front edges of this square piece, and not on the actual frame itself, which this piece can be glued in and then it all painted and you never see that piece. We've got 4 different dowel pins in here, or not 4 different, just we have 4 dowel pins, 2 larger ones and 2 smaller ones, and we'll go over those when we get to the point of putting them in. We have this really big fat screw here. That's a little bitty short one. This is a very expensive screw, believe it or not. And they were kind of very hard to find. But that one screw right there cost almost as much as the pair of each one of these pairs being laser cut out of stainless steel. It's ridiculous. But so there's our big screw. We have this double threaded, it's threaded on both ends shaft here. And that's also going to be for in our barrel. We've got these 4 oval head screws, 2 of one size and 2 of another. We've got 3 springs, coil springs, compression springs, 2 of one size, and then this little bitty one here. And then we have another design, specially designed, and I have to order these and get these specially made and cut. And that is a spring steel, very, very tiny spring that we ultimately will end up using on the hand. We'll get to that in just a minute. Then we have one flat blade screw that's all by itself. Then we have two different screws here that are two different lengths. And one is for the grip, which is the longer one. And then the shorter of the two is the one that goes through the body and ultimately screws and bolts our barrel release on. So what we'll do, we'll go ahead and we'll work on the barrel breakover part, because once we've done that, we can pull it back apart and like set the barrel off to the side. But we'll go ahead and work on that little function itself. So we'll get the cam, and then we need the little goofy looking spring that's got, it's like a teardrop, printed teardrop spring. And what we have is this goes in the barrel, in the body like this. So this teardrop spring, if you notice, there's a cutout right here that matches this teardrop. And you can set that in there, and ultimately this is what it's going to look like, so that we've got this spring action like this. Now we need to put some glue on here. We'll end up doing it on both sides, but when we put glue, we'll put glue, and then we're going to use our finger to wipe it nice and flush, and then we're going to spray it with our activator, which, let me go over the glue real quick. You can use thick super glue. The only reason I don't recommend it is because the short work time. Like, you put super glue out, it starts setting right away. What I use is a 2-part CA glue, or it's a thick, real thick, slow setting, basically super glue. Allows you to put it on, get your part where you want it, and then you spray it with an activator and it instantly sets. This is a brand that I've been using off and on for about 4 or 5 years. I've used a bunch of brands, and this was like the most consistent. So I worked with them and ended up, I actually carry this on my website now. So if you want some or need some CA glue, this very, very good glue, very consistent from batch to batch to batch, which is an important thing when we're talking about glue. So what I'm going to do is I'm probably going to zoom in a little bit here, because we're going to be working with so many small, tiny pieces here, and I've got to remember I have y'all zoomed in so I don't pull and try to show y'all something back here. So what we're going to do is I'm just laying this flat. Now, when we glue this, before the glue sets, we want to just kind of, we don't want to force the spring over, but we want the spring to glue with all the slack taken out, setting like that. So here's what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a drop of glue on here. And I kind of just smeared it everywhere. And my thing is now I just want to wipe that a little bit with my finger. I'm going to push the slack, or just barely apply pressure so the slack's over there. And I just want to make sure it's smooth. It's not sticking up and it's not recessed. It's just sitting there nice and smooth. So I'm going to flip that over, and I'm going to do the same thing. Give it a second. Let that activator already spray dissipate, because I don't want this to set the second I put it on there. So what I'm going to do is I'll hold this up a little bit more for you guys. And forgive my shaky hands, some of the rude ass comments that some of these basement warriors make. I drink coffee nonstop all day long because I have very bad ADHD, and caffeine helps mellow me out. But at the same time, it gives me caffeine shakes. If I don't drink any caffeine, my hands are rock solid, but I'm all over the place. So unfortunately, that's the way it is. Also, on these laser cut parts, y'all might feel like there might be like a little burr or something. You can use a little file or even like a razor blade or something, and I'll kind of show you, like, there's a little burr right there. This doesn't really matter because this side doesn't really come into contact with anything. Down here, there's like a little burr sticking out right there. I can just take a file, or probably even a razor blade would knock that off. But my biggest thing is I just want to make sure that I don't have glue all like built up on the sides. And if you notice, you can see there's a, well, here, it kind of shows up for you guys. You can kind of see where I wiped glue, but it's not built up. It's nice and smooth. So this is what we're looking at. This is what we want our cam to do, right? Our cam spring. And we can push it down a few times and just kind of like dick around with it. So now we're going to need the dual threaded standoff. We're going to need the fat-headed expensive screw. We're going to need this other screw, the singular flat blade one. And what else? Oh, before we do that, let's grab our little our laser cut stainless steel square here. Now this, I only wish that they could laser cut the edges a little bit more rounded. And some of these, again, have like a little burr. This one I grabbed because it was like the worst out of the last batch they sent me. And let me see if I can't clean that off of here real quick, because I'd rather have to sand or deal with it than you guys. Trying to think, I think I have a bigger file over here. Hang on a second. No, thought I had a bigger file over there, but I do not have a bigger file. So anyways, it's not too terribly big of an issue, but I just don't like that burr being on there. Go at it this direction as well. Does that filing, sanding sound good on the mic there? So if you notice, there's a square in here, and what we want is that to go in, and you kind of have to push up on it and angle it. Ultimately, we want it to stop and set flush. And if you notice down in there, it's kind of set in there under a little groove. So what we want to do is, I got to take this back out. I just want to put a drop of glue. It doesn't take much. The thing is, we just don't want over time it to get to where it wants to start sliding forward. We want it just to stay. And it is kind of a pain in the butt. There we go. So what you'll find when you go to put this in, one way it'll fit nice and smooth, and another way it might be a little like not as smooth. Just find the direction you're putting it in the smoothest way, so that when we go, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put a little drop of glue like right inside that edge right there, so that when I push this in, it smears the glue backwards in there. All right. There we go. So I set it in there. I kind of push. I want to make sure that it's flush on this edge. And then I'm just going to hit it with a little activator. And so there we go. Also, like with the way this is printed, this is actually printed flat so that all of our perimeters and layers are printed the strongest direction for what we need. So this side that actually prints down, you might feel like an edge. This one really doesn't have any. But if it does, you can, this is a little plastic pipe reamer from like Home Depot, but you can order them online. I suggest like the plastic handled ones, because the metal ones allow your blade to flop around, and it's a total pain in the butt. I like these because it holds the blade where it's at. But you can just take this and kind of drag it on the edge right there and remove any edges, even like around the edge of where the screw hole right here. So what we're going to do is take our cam and our cam goes up in our barrel just like this. And if you notice, there's a slot in here. This slot, this standoff, this allows this cam to slot around into there. So what we're going to do is slide that boy in there. We're going to slide this together. Now, this standoff has to come from this side, which it has the bigger hole. And we're just going to push that through. And if you go, if you go to put your standoff in and it won't push all the way through, go ahead and, you know, okay, yeah, it goes through the barrel just fine. You might go to put it in here and there, it's kind of a tight fit. You can kind of wiggle it to get it, you know, because we want this a good snug fit around the standoff. So let's put our cam back in. Okay, that's not what I wanted to do. Put our cam back in, that in there, put our standoff. Now, the standoff comes all the way through to this side. We're going to put this spring, come on camera, this screw into here, and and then this screw will go on after we put two other parts on. But so this is basically what it'll end up as. So I'm going to take it back out for just a second. These two parts right here are what we need next. And if you notice, there's an indentation on one side, the other side's smooth. This has like a little recessed step. If you notice it matches, and if you don't lose your part and let it run off on you, this little recess goes right down in here, and it'll lock into like place. It doesn't allow it to turn, which is what we want. But before we glue that on, we want to take and make sure our standoff, and see our shaft here won't go through there. It'll go through the bottom side. The reason it won't go through is this is the side that's printed on the flat surface, so it might sometimes cause like a little edge. So you can take a file or one of these little dudes and just run around, and it will remove that edge. We're just wanting to make sure that the fitment is all good before we, like, you know, put these in place and then end up having to clean it out. So we've got our notch. Let me back up here. Let me bring another light over here. Here we go. So we have this notch on the side of the circle. If you turn this over, we have our notch there. So what we're going to do is we're going to glue that in. We don't want to get any glue in our hole though. And this doesn't need a bunch of glue because this is all held in place once we assemble it and put our screw in there. This is just a separate piece because on the actual real one, this is painted silver compared to if the pistol is black or, you know, chrome or whatever color. This is always a different, you know, this is always just like a stainless steel color. So I'm just going to hit that and hold it. I just put a little drop of glue in the notch area right there. So there we go. So that's all set. So we can take our shaft here, push our shaft in, and see it goes through to this side and stops. So that's what we're doing here. And I can't grip it with my fingernails, so I'm just going to pull it back out. Now, the other thing real quick, this guy, we want to make sure the shaft goes through. And see, it'll go through, but it stops on the other side that, if you know, is the shiny side. So we'll just, one little quick, just to remove that little edge. And we go through without a problem. Okay. So let's go ahead and put our cam back in the barrel. We're going to slide this together. We're going to take our shaft and wiggle our hands a bit. Now I'm going to turn this over holding this shaft in, and I'm going to get this flat blade screw, and I am going to just kind of push it just a little bit on that hole. And I don't know where my medium-sized flat blade screwdriver is at, so I'm going to take this dude and screw this in, and I'm holding a little pressure on the shaft because the shaft will want to turn. If it won't go in and it just keeps turning, you're kind of cross-threading it. So later when we put the other screw in, we can do a tight on it. Because thing is, we want this screw tight into this shaft because it'll hold it still against this body. So right now, this is what we've got. We've got our little notch here. I really would like to bring a light over here. Here we go. So we've got our little cam notch exposed down here. But so this basically is all we're working with right now. Okay, and we can go ahead and take our little switch here and just put it on right about here. Once we put this screw in, then you'll see that you can only move that a certain distance. So I'm going to take this and I'm just going to kind of spin it in there and give it a little, and that's it. You don't want to go super tight because you still want to be able to move this guy. And I actually didn't go tight at all. So there we go. So you go tight enough to where, you know, there's some drag on this. And that's as far as that switch can move, right there to right there. And that's its stopping points. Can't go any more than that. And that dude is solely for the purpose of operating this. And so this, we're going to go ahead and put on right now. So we're going to just bring the barrel over, and you know, it's two-sided. One, if you notice, it's smooth here. This side has like a little hook, and that's the side that we want on here. And we've got our two smaller oval heads, and this is what we want. So I'm going to put this in here like that. And hang on, where's my smaller flat blade? Now, these don't go super tight. They only get about 1.5 threads in there. And again, you know, these are all parts that you'll paint separate. We want to make sure it just contacts. We don't want it, you know, dragging, super dragging or anything. So we'll go right here. Do a little twisty twist. Just make sure it's not too much. There we go. So that's all that dude right there moves. Basically, when this barrel's closed, this switch in its down position, when the barrel closes, it catches this notch and it moves this down, which releases any tension on the cylinder and allows it to smooth freely or spin freely with operation. When you come up, this switch actually rides against this dude right here like this. And right now, if you try to take the cylinder out, you couldn't. You've got to go like this and push it until it pushes that, and it moves it down. You can take the cylinder in and out. But we will do that here in just a second. What we're going to do is set this off to the side. We're going to go ahead and get our cylinder. So what we need is the cylinder rod right here, the spring for the cylinder, and our index. Okay, so if you look real quick on our cylinder rod, there's a fat end. The end down here that's got a flat side. See, this is flattened. And if you notice, the hole in the back of the indexer has a flat spot on it. So it will go in just like that, and it pushes further in like that. I just don't have to fight with getting it apart. I'm gonna go ahead and knock any little boogers off here. The one thing that I don't have laying here with the kit right now are the bullets that come with it. They're actually laying over here to my left on another table, and I'll grab those in a minute. Like most of all my other kits, even though this kit right here is not resin yet, it still will come with resin bullets. So let me pop that off. What we're doing here, if you notice, there is a flat spot on the hole here. This rod is going to get put in through here, And then we're going to put glue in here. Let me back up. I forget that I'm zoomed in. We're going to put glue in here, and then we're going to push it down on the rod and glue that in. But here's the fun part. We get to put this big old long spring over this rod. We're going to have to pull this down and hold it with our fingers so we can reach up through here, line up the flat spot, and push it through. And right now, this whole thing is spring loaded. So I'm going to do this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to get some glue down in here. Don't go overboard, but we do want enough glue that when we push it on here that it's going to, you know, make really good contact. In the worst case scenario, if you don't get enough glue after you do the ejection of the shell numerous times, you may pop this off. Well, if it pops off, then you can, well, I didn't get enough glue and I can, you know, you can glue it back on. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a drop of glue on the to come out here. And then I'm going to take it and I'm going to put it down in the bottom. Then I'm going to line this up and I'm going to push it on. And make sure when you push, of course, you're pushing straight. You're not like pushing off to the side because you don't want to break your stuff, man. The rod is very stout, but you know, anything with enough ill-placed force you can break. So we're just going to leave that up for a second. We want to make sure that, you know, if you did get any glue that mushed out when you pushed it on before you use activator or whatever, try your best to wipe it all off because we need this dude to come back and set in here. So ultimately, this is what we end up with right here. And we can run it back and forth a few times to smooth it out. This one of these things, you don't necessarily need to paint this shaft, but if you do paint the shaft and you realize it's kind of a tight fit, that's when you can go in and start putting in like a PTFE based like lubricant. Just a little bit, like a little bit of lube goes a long ways. That's what she said. But anyways, so we open this up. We want to take this and push it so this opens. And the first couple times we put this in, there might be some, you know, dragging. But we want to go down. And the very first time we put this in, it might like click a little bit on this. No big deal. Now we put it in and we want to close this. So what we want to do is if we did everything right and we don't need to make any adjustments, the little cam just popped out right there. So we should be able to go over. And when we do this, you see that goes up. Now, it didn't pop close. And the reason it didn't pop close is this is where we're going to want to do some little bit of filing and stuff. You see, as the cam, as that goes back, it hits that. Now, as the barrel comes forward, it is slowly pushing, let me get in a better light here, pushing that cam up that way. And what it's supposed to do is it gets to a point that it jumps off of that square block. And see, I'll actually take this and push it up in there. So I'm pushing, but the cam's not wanting to jump back. So ultimately, this is where we're going to go in and we're going to make just a little bit of an adjustment because our cam is not wanting to release. And if it released correctly, it would allow this to shoot back. So what we'll have to do is come in here, and I'm seeing on this one what I need to do. Looks like I just need to take a little edge off of that laser cut part, which, you know, again, that's one of those things that's kind of one of the issues with them laser cutting it. It tends to put like a, what do you call it? And then it resets. I'm just trying to figure out exactly which edge. When they laser cut these parts, they don't have square sides. They tend to go out at an angle. And the only way that I've found is if I could find somebody to like water jet cut them. But I cannot find anybody that can water jet cut them. That's not like, oh, you need 50 or 100 of these. Yeah, it's going to be $500 because we only deal with large clients. There's very few companies out there that deal with small, well, 50 to 100 of small pieces or whatever that deal with us like that. And like Send Cut Send. Send Cut Send's one of them. They're really freaking good. I love Send Cut Send. Because over the years, they've kept in mind, what was important, what helped build them. A lot of companies, when they get started, they take in everything, they work with everybody, and as they get bigger, they only want the big customers, and they just screw the customers that don't have large quantity orders. And we don't have enough of that in America, enough manufacturers that stick with the little guys. I'm gonna push that forward just to unlock it. So I'm gonna see this the cylinder will not come out. Like, it will still turn, but this is locked, and when you do that, that pushes that further back. And here, let me grab this other one. And don't make fun of this, because it's easier when I'm test printing stuff to print it in a high visibility color. So if you take this over, you see what, and it resets every time. So again, that's the same thing that I dealt with, on here. So what I'm going to do is, we don't actually have to take this one loose to take all this apart. The best way to do it is to undo this side, and it may or may not undo from this side. There we go. It did. If you take this one out, what it'll do is, if you kind of wiggle this a little bit, I was able to pull the shaft, the big screw, and everything all out as one piece. Then you can just slide this apart. So what I'm sitting here talking about is this edge of this cam right here. It does have a slight angle to it, but what we can do right here on the tip, and the other thing too to look at is feel this block and see, like, again, it gets, when they laser cut this and the laser's coming down, and this is with all lasers, but especially probably cutting something this thick, that laser beam, they adjust it to where the finest point of the laser is hitting just below the surface. So once it digs in, it comes down, and the laser beam actually starts going back out at another angle. But I'm sure even cutting this, it probably gets refracted out. So it will put a slight angle on this. So all I do is I can take a little file, and I'll just hit the sharpest edge. And actually, I'm realizing, okay, so see, perfect thing for me to show you guys. I put glue in here and glued this in, but if you notice, see if it'll show up. Yeah, do you see that block wiggling in there? So it did not get glued good. So that may be my only problem that I'm having, because as this cam is coming up, it's pulling the block. So I need to get some glue down in there. My question is, where the heck did my glue go? Maybe I just didn't put enough. So here's what I'm going to do. And again, this is another reason why you want to glue this block in before you paint, because ultimately you can paint over all of that and just make it all disappear. Now I just put not a bunch, but I just put some glue on the face right there, and I'm just going to kind of wipe my finger across and smear it. But then I want to push my block down, because I want the block to be sitting at the bottom of my hole here. And then, so actually that's an awesome thing to actually happen, because if you guys get your stuff assembled and it's all working like it should, and then after time, all of a sudden it's like, wait a minute, it's not releasing once it gets over there, that is a good place for y'all to check is make sure your block, because this high, it's the good part here is you guys can easily see that block in there. But make sure your block is not moving. I'm having a hard time here. I'm trying to keep forgetting I'm zoomed in for you guys. Is my block still? Okay, my block is still. I'm not going to do anything else because that's some of the troubleshooting that we do in model building. So now I'm just going to take my guy. Whoops. I'm going to put it in the right place. And push it in. Bring my screw back over here. And that's very interesting because I put a pretty good glob of glue in there. And when I pushed that block back, I must have just scraped the overwhelming majority of the glue to the back. And it just did not set good. All right, so we'll open this up. We'll push our switch up so we can put our cylinder back in. And it is pissed off at me. Hang on. Come on, guy. Yep. Might need to clean that up some more. Here, we'll go ahead and reset that anyways. So let me push our switch back that way and then we'll close it. So we still got, let's see. All right. My block didn't come loose, did it? No, block is still nice and done. So I just need to clean up that one little edge of this cam. Did that come loose? No. Okay. So now I'm just going to push in here with my screwdriver because I want to see how much I need to actually not much. Not much at all. Okay, not much. Just a little bit. All right. Let me take this screw back out. It's the reason I wanted to start on the barrel first. Pull that out. Pull that. All right. Come on, Mr. Cam. Oh, here, let me take the cylinder back out. Oh, and while I'm here, just because I actually didn't do it, this spring right here we glued in on we glued it, you know, starting from this side. On this side, or actually, is it this side? It's one of the sides that's shiny. No, it's this top side facing us. There will be an edge, and I actually meant to cover that. We need to just kind of, that's another thing that can be an issue. We want to make sure, you know, if you run your finger this way, you'll feel like a little lip. And I'm just going to take that lip off of there. Because that actually is something that can get in our way of our little spring guy here functioning the way it's supposed to. So I'm just going to take that edge off of that. One of the downsides of printing some things directly against your plate is no matter, especially something this small. Normally when I design my parts, I kind of design in to compensate for any of the little edge that might show up, but being such a thin print as it's printing, you really can't compensate for that. It's such a pain in the butt, but you know, it's another good thing about the resin is that stuff you don't ever have to worry about printing against the actual print plate itself. All right. Oh, well, for the main thing I came out here to do. So this is the edge that catches that cam. What we can do is just take us a little file and just the sharpest point of that cam is all I'm just doing a little bit on. You don't want to go overboard here because you go too much, your cam will release too soon. But again, being laser cut, especially in these sharp corners like this, we'll have a burr, and that burr wants to grab the edge of the burr on here, if there is one, and that's why I was trying to feel a while ago when I realized that all of that was loose. Okay, let's try that now. It might be fully done, or that might be just a little bit better. All right, get your butt in there. All right. And we'll just push this hole, whoops, and make sure that you're behind the notch in the thing. And you have to, there we go. And set flat. The other thing, if you pull all that out and push it back in before you start tightening this side, make sure all this is setting together, you know, all nice and flush with each other. Because if it's not, then you don't have that side switch in the right place. I'm just going to go in nice and slow and make sure I actually hit that shaft dead on. Tighten that down. Okay, so we come over. Let's let that back down. And our cami is still being a pain in the butt. All right, dude. All right, release that, put that in, switch back again, and we are, how far are we off now? Barely any. I mean, that was just barely, just need to knock the corner off of that. I can probably just do it while it's out, or while it's still in. Like I said, I grabbed the two worst bird pieces because ultimately you guys may have to do some troubleshooting. And as far as the breakover goes, this is the only troubleshooting really, is just that little bit of an edge. Like, I'm barely having to touch that. Just, oh, it's so close. So close. And this might actually be easier if I took it out to where I could actually hold the cam. Because, yes, because as soon as I go to pushing on the side, like the direction I need to, the spring lets that cam go back. Let's pop this out again. Take that out. Boom, boom. Come on out. There we go. All right, what I'm doing is you see the notch. I'm actually, moreover, instead of the front side, I'm going and taking this edge down just a bit. Just because I'm shortening. Well, I'm really not shortening it. As I'm doing this, I'm actually taking the slanted laser cut side off of it. Which ultimately, because what happens is this is sticking down too far. So in shortening it, we're making it to where it will release, because it catches like this. And as the barrel comes around, the barrel starts pushing this up. That's why we've got this elongated hole here. The barrel pushes it up, causes it to come around and unlatch. Then we come back around, bring the barrel up, it gets caught again. So what I'm doing is I'm just shortening this point just a bit here. And really, it's just looking like more I'm just taking off the angle of that weird little angle that that happens when they laser cut this stuff. We'll make sure I'm... Hard to tell how much I'm actually doing here. It's not the best file for it. I actually have like a good metal file, but I'm just too lazy to walk out to the shop and go get it. I thought it was laying in here, but evidently not. So let's push all of that in. Okay, it all dropped in. It's back behind that. Put our screw back in. Let's get this over here and screw that on. Okay. And see, when you first put this in, that dude doesn't want to really, there we go in too well. So see, now you see that. So you come over, and just as the barrel breaks over, now we've got our timing. Now see, if I file that corner shorter than what that is, the shorter it goes, the quicker it's going to release. And we want it to, if you notice, the barrel is almost over, and then boom. And that's exactly the way the real one functions. So we've got our release that we could do it 100 times. So they would do like that. You could move that over, pull your cylinder out, do whatever like maintenance, push it back, lock the cylinder in. Cylinder can still spin, but it can't come out. So there, now our barrel fully functions and works like it's supposed to. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this back off so I don't have the barrel and the cylinder in the way as I'm showing y'all how to put the middle of it all together, all the internal stuff over here. So I'm just going to lay this off to the side. Let me get all these little crumbs out of the way here. Okay. So that's not even the part I was talking about, you guys possibly cussing me and stuff. Just because the small things are kind of, I don't know, small things pain in the butt. The first thing we're going to do is get this weird looking little arm. And if you notice down in here, there's a groove right here. And you see this post that's here? This post is what goes in the center right here, okay? What we want to do first is, if you flip it over, you'll see the shiny side. You just want to make sure that, and a lot of times when I'm getting these kits ready together to go and put them in a bag and all the parts in the bag, I'll go through and do this, but I do forget. So just remember, as part of model making, this is kind of what you do. Also on this part, one of the things to look out for is this side is shiny. And if you look at it, it prints this way. This notch right here, this little dude right here, it pops up through this square right here. Now, if we put this in here and this doesn't go in and out of that square just fine, the bottom side of this will be something that you can take, like whether it's a razor or a file or whatever. And just because that's another one of those things, as far as when you're 3D printing environment from day to day, you know, everything that I have is in a climate controlled print room, very, very well climate controlled print room. But just the changing of the seasons can make slight variations and stuff. So what we're going to do, we're going to want to test this first. So we're just going to kind of drop this in here. And if you notice, I just kind of got it at an angle right above that shaft. Now I want to take this and I want to push that down on the shaft, and then I'm going to kind of push down on that head so it pops up in there. Okay. So if you notice, it's down on the shaft. The function that we're looking for is me able to move this arm, and that pulled that head out. And so if you see, as I move this arm back and forth, that is coming up and down. And it's very important that that operates smoothly. And like I said, if you're going to do this and this head seems to be getting stuck, it's going to be that bottom side, that the non-shiny side. Now, if you need to take this back out, the easiest way to take this out, and don't get crazy on this because you don't want to break your post, but you can just kind of get under this and wiggle it just a bit. There you go. And it pop it up. And once it pops up like that, you can just kind of get under this head and just twist, just pull it back a bit so it gets uncaught, unstuck, whatever. to take it back out if you need to go through and make an adjustment to the bottom side of this right here. But you do ultimately need to take it back out anyways, because if you get this small, don't run away, this smaller of the spring, so you know you've got these three big ones. There we go. Those three big ones are two big ones. We want the smaller. What the smaller one does, if you look down in here, you see this little groove. And if you look at the top of the groove, there's a hole. You know, and there's a remnant of a boogie in there. Come here. Come here, boogie. There's another little remnant. Okay. There's a hole right there. Okay. This spring goes down in that hole and it sets just like that. Okay. When we put this in, we have to compress this spring to ultimately set on this notch, right? Set on this little nipple right here, because we want the spring pushing up on this. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to kind of put it where I want it to go. And no, you cannot put the spring in afterwards just because there's no room to slide the spring down in there. So I'm going to take this spring and I'm going to try to pull back on it the best I can while lining it up. And I know this is just going to be one of these things. It's hard for me to get on camera and show you guys. Just kind of pull the spring out of the way right there. Get back on the thing, my bobber there. Okay, I'm trying to hold this up and not be able to see what I'm doing. So look, I've got it kind of all like wedged. The spring is kind of wedged and all that stuff. I can take this spring, and this, like I said, this would be one of those things that y'all will probably cuss me, but you know, you want to build cool models, you got to do cool things. So if you notice now, it's on there. And so if I push that, see what's going on there? Boom, boom, boom. And that's why we want to make sure this moves in and out freely, because we want to be able to do that and that dude to come, pop in and out. And that's all that does. And that is actually the way the real one functions too. It has an arm in there, but instead of a coil spring, it's got a flat metal spring. Don't even ask. So before we get too much further, our two fat dowel pins, we're going to use these real quick. If you notice, one side of the dowel pin, one end is kind of like beveled or chamfered. The other side's really not. We're going to use the beveled side. This big hole right here, we want to go ahead and stick this in and make sure it goes in. And it will be a tight fit. And if it doesn't go in too smoothly, then, and again, this is one of these things that I need to make sure that everyone's prints either perfect or too small, because if it's too loose, it's just, it's not good. So I'm going to go around this hole, front and back. And I'm going to stick this in here. And what I might find out is you can also lay this on a flat table, because you want to support the back side. And once you get it in there, you can kind of push on it. And if it doesn't, go ahead and go all the way in, very easy. Don't get crazy force on it. If you notice, it's almost all the way in, but it's not all the way in. So I don't want to get like super crazy force on it. So I'm just going to push it back out from that side. And again, if you don't have one of these, if you have like a round file or something, you can just go around the edge of the hole. This is one of these things that no matter what you do, an adjustment needs to be made. This is one of these we have to adjust it no matter what. So I'm going to put that in there. It kind of fits. And ultimately, we're looking for a snug, we want these to be a snug fit. but we don't want them to be impossible to take out. So that didn't really clean up much for me there. So I'm just going to pop that back out. And probably would be better off if I had a file right now than what I'm doing. But hey, you can even try to go. And remember, as you keep trying, use the beveled side because the other side has a very straight edge on it. So it actually will go in now. And see, it kind of goes in, and I can take this and push it flat. The thing is, we're going to take these in and out a few times, but right now we're just pre-fitting these holes. The next hole is right here, but what you have to pay attention to is your arm that you just put in there is actually covering that hole a bit, because once you put this dowel pin in, it won't let this come down as far as what it's doing. So I'm going to find my beveled end, and I'm going to just stick it down in there. Now this hole 9 times out of 10 will fit perfectly fine. Now you probably won't be able to push it out of the back. The reason this hole fits kind of loose is because it's only a half formed hole. Because if you get this dude up out of the way, if you look, there's really not a top side to that hole. So there's not a way for that hole to become overly tight. But we can go in and actually push and cause it to come all the way out the back. Before we go any further, what we want to do is we want to grab this side cover, okay? These 2 holes right here are the other side of these dowel pins. So we'll want to put those in, and they might be kind of snug, and we'll just kind of want to force them through. And then make sure that one's good to go. Put it in over here, and okay, that one's good to go. And see, this is one of those pieces that I fully printed up in the air. It's kind of why the inside is a little bit rougher, instead of like this surface being shiny and only these being rough from being supported. This whole thing's supported. And the reason I did that is because with it being raised up, I can make sure that these holes are way more perfect than a side that is printed directly down. But I do that because we want a really nice finish on this side to match this side. This doesn't really matter because ultimately once we put it together, and see, like I still have that dowel pin in there, what happens is that will get pushed in there. Our dowel's flush there, our dowel's flush there, and then we put our screws in and screw the whole thing together. And then of course, to get it back apart, since those dowel pins fit the way they do, we just have to do a little wiggle here and there. And trust me, as you take this back and forth apart a bunch, even after you've got it fully done and painted, if you're like me, I've had this one and the other one I did back apart so many times that the dowel pins are now to the point that I need to actually put a dot of glue on the sides that go into the body and set them in there so they stay, because I've worn out the holes just pulling them in and out so much. You may not pull them in and out as much because you won't have as much testing, and because every one of these internal parts I have printed, reprinted, printed, reprinted so many times to get them exactly the way that I wanted them. Okay, so let's well, we can leave that dowel pin in for now. So what I'm going to do is, let's see, we can go ahead and we'll do another pain in the butt part. Okay, this one don't hate me, but the way the internals on this specific revolver are made, and for the double action, this little spring here, and please don't lose this spring because this is a very expensive spring, because these all have to be custom cut. If you get your hand here, so this is what we're dealing with. If you notice this slightest little line there, that's actually an opening. What we're ultimately looking for is for this spring to be in there with this L to be facing off to the side over here. So really, the best way I've found to do this is I've laid this spring, and this will hurt your hand, to this opening down here and kind of wiggle this and I'll show you once I get it started. All right, so see, I just wiggled it. The reason this is so tight is because I could make this a little bit more open and the spring to fit really loose. We are going to ultimately put some glue on both sides. The glue doesn't really stick to the steel, but it helps close in and keep the spring straight. But what I'm trying to do is I push this in here. And if you notice, I'm just going to, one side is almost completely closed off because it's the shiny side that prints down towards the print surface. What was I just looking at there? Looks like there's a little boogie right there. There was. Okay. So what I've done is I've just kind of pushed that in there and kind of wiggle it back and forth just to kind of open that up. Now I'm going to take this back out. Okay. I want to lay this in this groove the best I can. You know, I'm actually going to do it a couple more times here to open this up just a little bit more. And I know this is really hard to show you guys what I'm doing. And I guess even if you wanted to, which I don't want to do because if I lay it down, y'all can't see. If you have like a flat razor, you could probably stick in here. We just don't want to massively open this up. We don't want this super open. We want it to, so see, I've stuck the razor in there and I guess I could wiggle that a little bit. We just don't want it super open. We still want it to have a little bit of tension. Because here's the thing, once we actually get all this together, this spring pretty much stays where it's supposed to go, even without glue. But we also want this all the way to the back of that opening. Here, I'm actually just going to do my wiggle thing that I've found best to get this in here. And I'm going to drop it a couple times. I'm going to look to see if I'm at the back of the hole, which I'm not. So I'm just going to kind of keep it going here. And what I'm doing is I'm basically using the spring as kind of a teeter-totter, you know, saw to get down in here. Really, I think between this spring and the fine-tuning the breakover barrel part, that's the only difficult part of this whole build. All right, so I did push some stuff out of there. So let me see if I can put that in there now. Now, it's in there, but if you notice, it would hit this circle if I push. We need it further in there, and you can kind of see where the line begins and ends. I need it back in there as far as I can get it. I need it to the back of that slot. So I don't know if I can. So what I just did there is I put that in there, and I'm just going to kind of push and try to push that spring back in there. So that clears. So now, if you notice, it's kind of raised up. We need it to be flush. And I had a pair of pliers here that I could have easily flushed it with, but instead I'm just going to lay it down and push down with a flat blade screwdriver there. Now what I want to do is I want to push on this and go, yep, that's clearing. It needs to be just a hair bit more than that. There we go. There we go. All right. So if you notice, I've got this in, but I can still push left and right on this. It's totally okay. It's more about it being held good enough that we can get this together. And once we get this together, it has a weird tendency just to hold itself where it needs to be. But we need to be able to collapse this, well, without spitting that out. I'll keep looking over at the camera screen to see what you guys can see. So we need to be able to collapse this all the way without it touching the circular part here. And that seems to be good. All right. So the other thing we can do while we have this in our hand is, let me get these over here. The two smaller dowel pins, we want to make sure that one of them slides through here just fine, which it does. Okay. The other thing we're going to need is we're going to need this, the hammer lock, or catch, I should say. And we want to make sure that the dowel pin goes through there as well, and it does. Then we need our trigger. The trigger has one opening, the other side's closed off. We want to make sure it all goes in there, and it does. Good to go. So before we put this together, we're going to go ahead and grab our other part of our trigger here, and we can go ahead and all we're going to do is put glue down in this channel and glue this in, and you kind of will push it down in there and go ahead and we'll glue the front of the trigger on. So I'm going to put a nice, just little bead. And we want to glue this really good because we want this as much as a singular part as we can get, because again, it really aids in the strength of this trigger. So I'm just going to kind of push it in there and hold it for a second. Let all that glue mush around in there and get set really good. Okay, so there we go. The other thing we can check is take one of our other big dowel pins and make sure that it'll slide through our trigger fine. See, it slides through this side, but shiny side, it doesn't slide through too easy. So I'm just going to take this and just the slightest little bitty edge right there, and we're just going to go through. And we're wanting to make sure all of this works fine. And our hammer, same way. We've got, we need to make sure that goes through. It won't go through because of the shiny side over here. So we'll just kind of knock that out. And let's see, there we go. So we want to make sure that this slides nice and freely. Okay. Then the other thing on the hammer, you've got this back hole. This other dowel pin goes in that back hole. So you can kind of just line it up and put it on a table and push. And now it's in. There we go. So what we can go ahead and do real quick before we get to putting all this together is we can put the back side of our hammer on. And if you notice, there's a notch and there's this little raised part that's going to get glued just like that. So I'm going to put some glue down in my channel here. The opening of my bottle is almost dried shut because I keep leaving it open while I'm talking to you guys. Now I'm going to get the majority of what just was an overflow there off of there. Then I'm going to squish him together. I'm going to look around, make sure there's not a big puddle of anything that needs to be wiped off. And glue our boy together. There we go. Let me put the top on my glue real quick. All right. There we go. Okay. So the fun part. What we can go ahead and do is take our trigger and our hammer latch. This dude goes in here just like this. So if you're holding it, it goes in here like this. We can go ahead and take our dowel pin, stick our dowel pin in here, and get it to go through all of them. Now, our dowel pin is not fully seated. That's sticking out too far. You'll feel it pop into this backside. Basically, that dowel pin, once it's in there, like if it's in far enough, if you put your hand on there, this hand, not this hand, but this hand, it doesn't stick out past that hole. So we're good there. All right. This, if you notice, there's this little cutout right here. I'm going to put this hand on just like this. And if you bring this hand around, you'll see the little L shape go into that notch. And that's all this does right here. Well, once you have it in, all of it gets held together by the frame. But I'm going to put it back together. So all of this just does this right here. Okay. These two move freely. They squish together, all that good stuff. So what I can do, I can go ahead and put my dowel pin back in my trigger hole just for now. Now when you, here, let me leave that hand off for a second. When you put the trigger in there, this front part, you got to make sure, like you might go to put it in there and it fights it. It just needs to be moved up to clear that, because ultimately the trigger sets under that. So when it's up like that, the trigger's actually helping push up on this dude right here. So this all goes together like that. Sets in there like that. The only thing is we need to put this hand on. So we need to pull that out, because we need to slide it all in there kind of as a unit. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to drop this on there back a little bit further than what it needs to be. It's so hard trying to do this and show you guys at the same time, because the hand, here we go. Just show y'all, it sits like that. This doesn't really matter where this is at. We just want to make sure our hand goes up and is sneaking its little peepers out through the top right there. And now I can take this dowel pin, hold your hand on here, and we want to push our dowel pin through, and we have to find our hole. No, don't come out. I had you all nice and perfect. All right, so, and thing is, we probably have to push up on it. There we go. And it's fine if the dowel pin pushes out the back a little bit. We're not even focused on that right now. Only thing we wanted to focus on is we wanted that hand to get in the place where it was supposed to go, and to make sure that the spring is locked in behind the notch on this hammer latch. So all of that is good to go where it needs to be. So if you notice, if you push back on that, that spring gets pushed in, which pushes that forward. Now, when we put this guy in, the dowel pin we put in sets and actually rides in this little groove over here. I'm going to put this in, but I'm going to take this back out, because we're going to have to put the two big springs in there and put all this together. But I want to be able to just slide this in here and show you guys. So we got to kind of pull the trigger back and slide our hammer in, and then we can pull all of this back to where it's supposed to be. And if you cock the hammer, see, it grabs the bottom of the trigger and it gets up here eventually and it sets. And then if the spring was pushing on this right now, as I pull the trigger, it's going to slap forward. Then the spring is going to pull that back and it gets latched under there. And that's the double action of this, is because I can pull this trigger and it will bring this back just a little bit and allow it to slap forward, and of course would set off the primer and stuff. The reason we have to put the hammer in separately is because this spring has a notch or a groove cut in it that this bottom foot has to go into. And actually, I wonder if I can just slide that up. Oh, well, there we go. We'll do that. How about that? We'll make everybody's life easier so I don't have to pull it back out. Well, I say easier until we get ready to put the springs in here. Okay. So we've got this other one, and if you notice, it's got these little nipples on it, and this has these nipples. We want those facing each other. So we will just drop those in. The round ends go in here. So this is the fun part. We've got two springs right here. Well, if one doesn't run away, that we have got to put one spring in between these posts and one spring in between these posts. Okay. And this is going to be kind of difficult. I don't know if this is going to be easier to do with the hammer in here or not, because the hammer shortens us on some room that we would have. And it's really not that big of a deal to put the hammer in after the fact. I'm going to pull this. Yeah. Now, you guys might want to sit there and struggle with it, but I have to think about being able to show you guys how I'm doing this. So I'm going to take the hammer out of the way because I've only done this a couple hundred times. I'm going to go ahead and do this outside one first. I just set the bottom on that one, and I'm just going to kind of, there we go. That's how it's going to be. Now this one is a way bigger pain in the butt because it's got to be crunched down so much more. There we go. So this is ultimately what we end up with. And that's a super strong spring. We want to make sure our arms are set down in there. So, all right. So as far as the hammer goes, now what I found easiest is I just take a screwdriver and stick back behind there and kind of pry down. And it's going to make me a liar is what it's going to do. If I can get that dude out of the way. Get out of my way. There. And then I can take my dowel pin and have to line my hole up. There we go. There. So now we've got this. Now, the thing about operating this without the side cover is you just got to really pay attention to your dowel pins that they're not sliding out or falling. So if I lock that, there's that. There's our double action. Oh, excuse me. Yeah, I got springs, and so you got to watch everything because it starts walking, because it prefers having the side cover on. So there we go. All of our internal stuff working as it should. So I kind of just push this dowel pin back up flush. What I want to do is I want to go in here and I want to put this side cover on. So we got to just kind of hold our mouth just right and get it started on each one of the two dowel pins. And as we push them in, it might push the dowels out the back a little bit, but don't worry, we'll get it all settled. See, it pushed out a little bit, no big deal. I want to go ahead before I worry about that and take these two screws. This is going to be our side. I will tell you guys, over the past couple months of working on and off on this, there were numerous times that I was like, it's really pushed the number of things that, like sizes and things. And I kind of look back at some of my other kits that I've done previously, and I'm like, you know what? Why am I using that little screwdriver? I could have probably done that. I don't know. Every time I do one of these advanced kits, I learn more, and I'm surprised at the more and more time and effort you put into designing or engineering. Because the thing is, making a 3D printed kit for plastic is not just as easy as going, okay, I have the real parts here, I can measure everything, or I have a blueprint and I can make all the parts exactly like that. Because steel and plastic all function different. And then you also, as you're designing stuff, have to take into account thermal expansion, contraction, the strength of stuff in a certain orientation. I enjoy it. It's a pain in the butt, but I do enjoy it. So we've got our sides on. So what we kind of want to do is we can just take like a flat blade screwdriver or something and just kind of push. And we're holding this side too because we want them to pop in. You know, we don't want it to push the side out. We want it to all pop in and be flush. So if you notice, now we're all flush, 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 flush. And we can test everything. And some of y'all may wonder, it's like, why didn't the hammer go further back than that? It just didn't. That was the thing that kind of blew my mind. But with the spring style and the amount of pressure that the Webley has, it literally does not cock back much for that. But the single action cocks back. Okay. So anyways, what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and get these two dudes, okay? We're going to deal with the one that doesn't have a square on it, doesn't have the opening, the square cut opening. That's going to go on the left side. So again, every time I reference left or right, it's me holding it. So this one is going to go on this side and shiny side out. There's a flat and blown, but if you've painted it, there's not a shiny side. You'll just see the recess, and it only is going to fit in there one way. So what I'm going to do is get my glue, and I'm just going to put a drop of glue in that little notch and a drop of glue in that little notch. I am going to, oh, Nikes, I'll put way too much glue. The shininess of these lights is, well, and again, you'll glue these on before you paint. So, because you'll glue these on and get them all where you want them to be. And when you paint, it'll fill in all the little seams and stuff. So, but you want to make sure that they're straight. You don't want them lean in any direction. They actually set pretty straight anyway. So now this side, we're going to take this one. And when we put this one on, we want the square to be up top. And we're just going to push that in there like that. And now on this side, when you go to put this in, you want these to sit down flush. And you might find that you can't push it down, it won't fit flush. Again, that's going to be because of this side that prints to the print surface. May have created a little lip in there. And you can either take one of these and go to this little square right here and make sure that there's not a lip that's preventing you from pushing this all the way back. If I put that in there and it fits nice and flush. So, all right, so I'm going to put some glue in the notches. I'm definitely not going to put as much as I did on the other side, or I'm trying not to. This light reflecting is such a pain. Like, I can't even tell how much I put on there. Anyways. All right, I'm going to put it on there and I'm going to push down to make sure it goes in those holes good. Get it right where I want it. And then I'm going to spray it. Like I said, could not see how much glue I got on there. So I may not even got enough glue. Which I don't know. It's acting like I didn't get much glue. Let it set for a second. It's one of these things is like, I got all these lights around and it's like, that's too much light. Okay, anyways, so we've got our barrel release spring. It's got this notch on it. It actually goes into this square right here. And that's it. It just sits there. You don't have to do anything with it. So if you take this guy and slide this over and push it up. So what we're going to end up with is we're going to end up with it just kind of sandwiched in there. All right, butthole, get back in place. All right, so again, we've got these two flat blade screws right here One's longer, one's shorter. The shorter is the one that we need for up here. And it just goes in and goes all the way to the other side. We kind of want to just kind of not squeeze really hard, but just kind of squeeze it because it's going to go to the other side and cut some threads in there. And we don't want it super tight. We just want to snug it so this still moves like it's supposed to. See? That's what we want. Okay. Now, before we get in worrying about the timing, we're going to go ahead and put together our D-ring. And where the heck? Oh, you know what? It's over here on this table. I think. Well, I'll go ahead and grab these while I'm over here. There's some just the back of the shells. The front of the bullets come with these as well. Let me see something. Okay, I found what I was looking for. There was another dowel pin, and it was laying over here on the table when I was making sure I got the whole kit together, and guess what? I didn't get the whole kit together. So, you know, there were the two bigger long ones, then the two that were the same size from there. Then there is a third one that is all on its own, which is the same width as the frame is. That ultimately goes, what? I've probably said ultimately like 50 times so far in this video. Holy crap. I need like 3 more words for like, well, eventually, ultimately, it will, whatever. Anyways, this dowel pin goes in here, but that'll be after we assemble. We've got our little doodadder here. It's got 2 little notches in it, and we've got this weird looking little loop. These are going to get glued in just like that, okay? Now, our D-ring here can be separated. You don't have to like put the D-ring in here and glue it all together, then try to glue this in and possibly get glue on your D-ring. That's why I put a split in here, because we're going to glue this little U shape into where I just popped that into these 2 little notches. Notches, I don't know what that was. 2 little notches. And then we can just pull this to one side and slide it in there, and it's good to go. So I'm going to take that off, and I'm going to make my life a little bit easier. I say that as I probably am going to glue this to my hand. Well, I've got glue all over my fingers so far. I'm just going to put just a touch of glue. Just a little touch on each one of those little feet. And then I'm going to take those 2 feet and I'm going to cram them in their little matching spot, and I'm going to hold some tension. And in case you're wondering why that's 2 separate pieces and not one solid piece, because to have a nice pretty print that is nice and circular and smooth and really good details, it needs to be printed in one specific direction. And to do that, we would have a really bad, to print this standing up, we would end up with step marks on this and a very weak ring, which we don't want a weak ring. So we have a strong ring because of the direction that it's printed. And we have a very nice looking peg that goes into this hole right here. So now, if that's completely dry, hopefully I got enough glue on there. I'm telling you, it's really hard. I've got all these lights, and it makes it harder because I've got y'all zoomed in, and then I've got these lights even more focused around me, and it's really freaking hard to see my glue. So let me hold my tongue just right. So there. So now we've got our D-ring in there, and it can be moved around, and it kind of, you know, it'll catch in different places, all that good stuff. So what we want to do, we don't want to get crazy and get this stuck in there. Let's just push that up in there, and it should push in there and set just like that. We should be able to take our dowel pin and put our dowel pin through there, and it just slide in there. That locks this in, but it also still allows it to fully turn just like it's supposed to. Okay. We're going to go ahead and put our grips on because we don't want our dowel pin falling out, which is, I think, what happened to me a while ago is my dowel pin fell out when I just spit all over my mat here. So on our grips, the right side, again, holding will fit a little bit tighter going in because it fits up against the body here. Well, this side might now that I've got the cover on. But I just put this end in first. And if you notice, it's got these matching that's going to go down in here. And we just pop that down in there. Then we're going to come over here and do the same thing on this side. So we're going to pop all that together. We're going to take our longer screw, or really our last screw that we have, because we're almost done besides maybe having to figure out some, you know, timing stuff or whatever. Let me get a better screwdriver, or yeah, screwdriver here. Learn to speak. And we're going to screw that in until it recesses down in there. And so I know it's really hard to tell, but I've got the correct pattern in the grip here. It's one of those things that I would really be careful about, you know, how much primer. If you put primer at all on the grips, I would probably just go straight for blacking them out with just the spray paint. Very light coats, just let it almost fully cure, and slowly build up those so that you don't wash out your details in the grip and stuff. So far, that's where we're at on that. Okay, so let's go ahead, and before we put that together, we need to put our front sight in. And there we go. We're going to put our front sight in, and there's just a little notch here. So instead of trying to put glue down in the notch, I'm just going to take this and wipe a little bit of glue. I'm trying to hold it at an angle so I got a shadow and can see what I'm doing here. There we go. And I'm just going to take our sight, and I'm going to hit this real quick, and then I'm going to grab it and hold it and make sure that it stays straight. And again, this is a separate part because on these, most of these, the front sight was like brass, separate metal than what the actual barrel is. So I'm going and pull that back out, put my cam back in there, slide my dude together. We're going to put our shaft down in there. We're going to wiggle it around, make sure it's all set like it's supposed to. Take our side screw. And I'm going to run this in here. Okay. Make sure this all moves nice and smooth enough. I probably got that screw a little too tight. So I want to move you up there. Move you there, lock you in place, and okay, and then so what I need to do here is I'll need to do a little bit of an adjustment. I don't think my barrel is going down on there good. Probably need to, let me loosen my screw up on my barrel catch here. So it's what I need, just little bit of clearance there. I think it's not wanting to sit down on my body good, so let's take our guy out here. Oh, I see what the problem is. I'm not going to do that. So on the back of this barrel, the only part of this barrel that prints on the print surface is that little bitty notch right there. That's it. The rest of it is fully up in the air. And it's got the little lip that I was talking about is in our stinking way. So I'm just going to take, and again, I try to clean up a lot of these little edges in these important spots, but you know, hell, I was getting this ready for this video and I missed it. So I go over this because you know, this is one of these functions of what you guys have to do in model building, but you know, I try to hit some of these important spots so you guys don't have to, but in case you do, which evidently in this case you do, because I totally missed this whole, and it's all the way around all four edges of this little foot. Because like I said, this big old barrel prints starting just on this little foot. So did I get it all? I don't know, we'll see. Yeah, I got it all. So timing looks good. Yeah. All right, so now we have our breakover that resets every time. All right, so there we go. Oh, I guess we can try I don't have the front of the bullets in here right now. Y'all just have to forgive me because, I mean, now also this is one of these things that as we're doing that, like we put it together and then you might feel a little draggy here, there, or you know, whatever. Like I need to clear out a little boogie in there. The more you work this, the smoother everything gets. So our bullets are in there. And like this one, like these they're very solid. But you know, this one is just as smooth as can be. This one, this is probably iteration 992,000. But see, that one is even before I designed and did D-ring for down here. But I'm just overly stoked about all this because, well, if I hadn't just done that, I'd been even more overly stoked. Get out of here. Get out of here. And just so those of y'all know, when you do the ejection, you know, you're supposed to do it fast and point it off to the side so it kicks them all out and throws them out on the ground. But I'm really stoked that I was able to get, well, every single function, because, you know, we've got this in here. All of our lever operates on this cam like it's supposed to because it's pushing and holding the cylinder now. But when we come down, it hits the back of that and it pulls that down and releases the cylinder, so the cylinder moves fine. We come back up, you know, all that works. We push that way. Now the cylinder will come out, put that back in, that pushes that back up over there. Our barrel release, our double action. This is just, I absolutely love this. I absolutely love. Okay. And the more you operate it, the smoother it's ultimately going to get. But yeah, so there's the Webley Army with every single function available. And I'm actually very surprised I was able to get every single function not only work, but work smoothly and doing some things that I haven't done before, and really trying out some things that I wanted to try. And I'm very happy about this, and I hope you guys like this. There's a lot of time in this. I could have probably shaved off a lot of time in this, but there were things that I wanted to try new and try different, and to see if they were even possible and how well they functioned. You know, the guys I said at Send Cut Send is who I'm getting to, you know, they will laser cut my stainless steel and my spring parts for me. They were awesome. I mean, I send them my drawings, and boom, in no time flat, it's here. So if you guys need any small quantity, large quantity stuff done, I mean, I'm not sponsored by them or anything. I just very much appreciate businesses that as they get bigger, they don't forget about what made them bigger. And Send Cut Send is one of those guys that it doesn't matter if you need one piece, and that's the thing. It's not even that they'll still do one piece, but it's very expensive. It's not in development and in creating stuff, designing stuff, and testing stuff. They make it very plausible to do small run things and testing without it being massively expensive. And last but not least, this is your orange tip. That is your responsibility by the laws in whatever country that you're in to put that on there once you're finished, because once you've painted it and finished it, it's considered a finished product. That is your orange tip. It's required to be on there. That's all I have to say about that. I hope you guys freaking love it. I hope you love it. I hope you love it. But if you have any questions, just leave some comments down below. Go over the website. Shoot me a message there. I'm finally past Christmas time, so the chaos is starting to stabilize back to the normal chaos. But again, I hope you guys like it, and I hope you guys appreciate it. And I appreciate every one of you guys, especially you guys that literally buy every single thing that I make. I appreciate that very much. But have a good one.